answer the questions. If somebody wants to stop Darwin, he's feel invited. We have 1.5 hours time. We will be a little bit longer than 1 hour, not really. Depends on questions. So, Armin, take the stage and do the best. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me also on the Teams. So
here.
Yeah. Let's switch this one. Okay. So, welcome to the Azure DevOps fundamentals. Let's say, I mean, I'll put the focus on fundamentals this time. Short to myself, my name is Armin Kaleja. I'm here it says Cloud Solution Architect. Actually, I'm a software developer. It's just a fancy name. That nowadays we all get some architects or a bigger role and cloud prefix anyway, because nowadays everything we do more or less is based on or hosted on the cloud. So that's the cloud prefix in my title. But I would call myself a DevOps enthusiast, let's say like that, because from the early days where I really figured out or get to work with the DevOps, I was very blown away. I was so happy that finally something like that is here, and really, like, I would deeply recommend everyone. That's why I find this great topic especially for you guys that are learning now, that are going to be joining the workforce of developers in the future or near future now. Or some of you probably already do, and you will see really it brings your software development to a completely new level. As I said, it's going to be fundamentals. I don't know for the guys on the call, but I will really try to guide you to get you to understand the advantages and all the set of tools that you get from Microsoft, in this case from Azure DevOps services, and what it is, how to work with that, and etc. So, what are we going to talk today about? I mean, what is in our or in my head? What I thought about? What would be the best for you guys to see or to feel? So, as you can see in many demos, I always prefer that, and especially for new guys that didn't see much of live action of DevOps, or maybe see the first time Azure DevOps. That's why, as you can see, it's always introduction or one topic, lots of demo about it, second topic demo. In this case, we're going to start with introduction, then show the demo how to create a project, what to do, what kind of process templates, how to create all that, how to invite your friends, your team members. Then we're going to go to the source control. I already talked to Damir, already used Git as a repository for your work here at the university, so that's already good, but we're just going to touch a little bit on how it integrates to the whole picture of DevOps and to the Azure DevOps as a service. But after that, my part of that I actually really like and I think it's really cool about DevOps is this collaboration part, reviewing the code, collaborating with your guys, and how you can, in future, with your teammates in your work, how can you do it transparent and really well documented and actually kind of fun at the end, and not as how it used to be earlier days. I'll maybe touch also that topic, and at the end. Also a little bit complex topic, but we're just gonna have a sneak peek into it. What are build definitions and build pipelines, deployments, releases, how you deliver your code at the end. So this is kind of like a workflow after the introduction, of course, where we create a project, invite people, submit the code, review the code, and at the end build the code and deliver it. So that would be, I'll try to catch as much as I can so you can get a big picture how that all works and how to benefit if it's your hobby project that you do even alone, or is it something in university that you do in groups, or even you want to start open source project or commercial project, you can do everything with that. So how you can actually use this set of tools to to achieve that. And at the end, there'll be short question and answers. I mean, short. Let's see how short. There's going to be much questions. So I was thinking how to start this topic because I didn't have any slides prepared or anything. So when I was searching for the best definition, usually it's kind of hard in Microsoft pages or the Microsoft services of the product to find one sentence that describes the product the best. I like this one. I think it's actually very good, and it describes the whole DevOps very good. It says plan smarter, collaborate better, and ship faster with a set of modern developer tools or dev services. Pretty much accurate. So plan smarter, it means project management. It's a set of project management tools and services that you can use for that. Collaborate better, what I just said, you can do different code reviews, you can document stuff, you can discuss the stuff on that. Ship faster is this release and delivery and release part or these pipelines, what they call, that we can use to deliver our code, to build and deliver our code, test as well. I always forget to mention that it's as important as building is build, test, and deliver. And all that is a set of services under one product. So what is inside? So what is that set of tools? As I already said, it's version control. It's based what is, we're going to touch version control later, but let's stay on this. It's version control. It's a project management tool. It's issue and bug tracking. It is actually part of project management because it's, I mean, itself is a separate topic, but it is being implemented as a part of project management. How to deal with issues and bugs in your project. Automated builds and releases, that's the fourth part that I already mentioned, and many more features. I wrote here QA testing, quality assurance testing, NuGet package repository, etc., etc. So there are much more features in this set, but these are the main ones. So many people think only about project management. Mostly people that use Jira, they think, it's just another Jira-like project management. Some people only use it as a source control. They know it as a Git repository, but actually it's much more. It's all of it in one package. So what do we support in this package, or what is inside? There are two environments, so we can host it. We can have it as a cloud, as a service, paid service, or free in some cases, or in many cases you can use it as free. There's some things that you have to pay. We'll touch that in a second. And you can also have it on-prem, probably for big organizations, even though even there I would not suggest it. It's really too much admin work around it. You need to have enough resources, servers, database, licensing, all that stuff around it just to run exactly the same thing that you can have. And on top of it, the life cycles or the release and update cycles are not as fast as on cloud. On cloud, you immediately get always the newest rollouts or updates of DevOps. On-prem, you have normal release cycles, I think nowadays every 2 years. So, or every 1 year, I think. So, it's definitely a cloud version. But for you, small teams, smaller projects, definitely no-brainer, use cloud. Two versions of, there's two version controls. There's a Git and Team Foundation version control. For you, I don't know who had experience, or for the older guys that used to work in Microsoft environment or program in Microsoft environment, Team Foundation was, or it was actually preceding to this DevOps. So there was it was not cloud version, it was just on-prem. And later version came out as a cloud version. It was called Team Foundation Services, Visual Studio Online. They were changing names at the end. They end up with the DevOps. But it's a kind of legacy version control. It's stable, it's really nice. It just has some other disadvantages to the Git. So yeah, that's why. And Git broadly is more used. So I think nowadays Git is thing to go. Let's say. What else we have? Yeah, it supports different project management process templates. So as you might know, project management is not the same. There are different templates. There are different approaches: Agile, Scrum. They call it your basic approach, CMMI. Yeah, I'm honestly always between Agile and Scrum. They are very similar. They're just in name different. I think two differences we're going to see it later. But generally, Agile or Scrum is what most of the companies and most of the projects tend to focus or to use nowadays. You can also customize all these process templates. I'll show you in a bit what that means and what is a process template, what is the difference. Yeah, it's not just .NET and Windows, so it doesn't matter if you are using Python, you're programming, you're making iOS app, you're making Android, whatever. As long as that whatever platform is can use Git, you're fine, you're good to go. You can use your Git, you can build your code, you can use project management tools on it. And speaking about builds, there's two types of build agents. You can have your build agent running on your machine, you can host it yourself, and you can use the Microsoft on cloud. It's literally a virtual machine on cloud that you use to build your code. That's also included. One build agent is included. I think this is here, yeah. So I think that's why I cut here most of the theory, how to start. So how do we start with? You have a good idea, you want to start a project, few people, up to 5 people in this case. So it's really 5-minute work, what I wrote here. It takes 5 minutes. Yesterday, I created just example project that I'll show now in a bit in a demo. It took me 5 minutes. Gave it a name, few descriptions, invite few people that I want to have it on, and it was online. It was there. So of course, it's just an empty project, but there was no huge registration, paying credit cards or whatever. It was in 5 minutes online. You get up to 5 people in your team for free, which is already great. You get one hosted Microsoft build agent for free, so one virtual machine that you can use for building your code. There's a limit I read yesterday, just to make sure how much minutes. It's 1,800 minutes per month. So if your build takes 30 seconds, 1 minute, some small binary, yeah, you are good to go for a month most likely. If it's something bigger, some bigger binary that needs half an hour, especially UIs, Angular or similar, they sometimes take up to 20, 30 minutes to build. Might be not, yeah, might be a little bit too limited for such a project. But as I said, the prices and the costs are so let's say affordable. I think per additional user it's few euros per month, like 5-6 euros. I also think if we add more minutes or one more agent on top of it, we are also speaking about, I think, 30-40 euros a month. I mean, it's really small numbers, but for most of you guys, when you finish or you have some open source or some hobby software, this will cover definitely the needs for the free project. So yeah, it's a demo. So let's see what we are showing here. So or what I was talking about. I will have to switch my screen. So this is already my finished project, but let's just show you what it means to start a project, how it looks like. I will just create one more dummy project. So this is what I created yesterday. It's already there, but literally, when you go to the Azure.com and you log in with your account, you can have, I mean, there's a button new project, obviously. So Once we click a new project, there is project name, description, and I can define visibility of my project. Is it a private or public project? And probably the best thing would be to go to advanced and also find which type of version control you want to use. Do you want to use a Git as a version control? Or it is the, what I said, Team Foundation, TFVC version control. So that, I would say, Git is something that nowadays is definitely more appropriate to choose. And this is the work item process. This is what I was saying, this project management process templates. How I want to manage my project. Is it going to be a Agile template or Agile process management, basic CMMI or Scrum? And after that, I just click create. I'm just going to put sample demo project. So just for demo purposes. So it should stay private, Git, Agile. So I click on create, and it will not take long. I'll have my project already created. It is, of course, just an empty project. I need to invite my people, set up stuff, but it is already there. So welcome to the project. All features on the left side that I just mentioned, my project management boards, repositories, pipelines, they're all there. I don't have to turn on anything additionally or configure. Because there's lots of clicks and configuration to do, I already, and we have only 1.5. Usually this is more than, this is like a day workshops around the topic. But we'll try to just, present you or give you the enough input so you can understand and have a big picture and actually go yourself and try at home. I will switch to already created project here that I have. It's called Azure DevOps Fundamentals. It's like this session today, and I'll just switch to that one and show you what there is. So I'll go with the left side first. So we have an overview. It's a standard overview of my project. On that, the summary is okay. It's just the typical description of my project. It's a project stats here, how many work items I have, how much I've completed, how many pull requests, commits, what are my pipelines doing, how many builds I have succeeded, how many deployments were succeeded in the last 7 days period here, and the members just listed. I have 2 members here, just my colleague Indra and me, just for demo purposes. What is more interesting or much cooler as an overview is using a dashboard. That's a widget-like dashboard that I can configure and change, where I have a little bit more deep dive information about my project. I see the tasks, in which states are they, also based on priority, how many features I'm working on, what is the burn down actually of my team. We'll get to that in a bit when we go to the project management, but this essentially tells you how effective or how effective your team is. Are you managing the goals or not? How many tasks you completed? What's your velocity? Are you going to make the deadline or that specific sprint or iteration? Also, you can add here different build results. In this case, I have one only project. It's a backend project. So this was like a demo project where I have a UI, front end, and backend component. So the backend has 4 hours ago there was the last build, successful. All 4 were green. In case there'll be some error or some code will be not compilable, there'll be a red showing here also. You can see how much time, what I was saying. So this last build of mine was taking 5 minutes. So it's 5 minutes of time of my build agent. And I have 2 deployment slots. In this case, production and test slot, and they were being also successfully deployed, saying here deployed Well, let's say date, it should be today also. I don't see it here. Probably somewhere in configuration. You can also configure each of these widgets. You can add, yeah, column last deployed. Actually, that is missing. Which version is last deployed? So, yeah, dashboard is fine. It's like an overview of general state of your project. Wiki is just a wiki page. You also get to that in a bit. So. What else we have here? This is a part where we actually go to the project management, where we create our features and tasks, I mean, features and user stories and tasks. So this project specifically is created in the Agile, called a project management process template, how they call it. So that process template is essentially, it contains, I will switch to the backlog. Backlog is like, yeah, the whole stack of to-dos that needs to be done in the total time of or lifetime of this project. So there I'll put in backlog all the tasks, all the features, everything that I need. In Agile template, the biggest unit is Epic. It explains like one component of my solution. In that case, I call it backend. I have Epic for UI. I have a common Epic. It is like a shared library that's going to be used by both of the modules or both of the components of my solution. And I might have some middleware, some other tasks and some other small binaries components that will be used as middleware. So I put these things, they are like the biggest containers of all that. And they are epics. And on the Agile, the next would be a feature. So in each epic, I might have a number of features that I can define. In this case, just as an example, I have an initial project set up that was yesterday or 2 days ago what I was doing. I have building and deployment, so this is this build definition. So what I actually did is I created a project here that represents my preparation for this session, where I created my own tasks, what I need to do, and package them in certain epics, features, and user stories, and then tasks. That is the next level that I'm going to open out, that I need to do in order to represent you or to show you the DevOps on the way that I think that would be the best for you to understand it and to get the message. So, yeah, as you can see, there's a next level will be features, and then under features, I have certain user stories. User stories here create initial project, implement sample REST endpoint, multiple pull requests from it. So I just defined what needs to be done. They have their state. You can assign it to a team member, and yeah, and they usually user stories or they should contain only tasks. So if I want to achieve one feature, this feature will have multiple amount of user stories. So each part of the feature should be a user story. And in this user story, in order to deliver as a developer, to deliver this user story, I would have some tasks behind it, what I need to do. In this case, in order to create initial .NET 7.0 Web API project, I need to create a new project. I need to add a Swagger to the project because I want to show my REST endpoint, etc. I might have there 20 tasks, 5 tasks. Usually, if you have 20 tasks, it's the user story is then too big. It's always suggested to keep up to 5 tasks per user story. Otherwise, it's not so transparent or not so trackable. Especially if you need to assign the hours, etc. We need to track how much time somebody invested. Having too many tasks in one user story, it loses that traceability or that transparency that you usually get. So try to keep user stories as small as possible, so that in order to deliver them, developer needs to create up to, I would say from my experience, up to 5 tasks, not more. So once we have define these tasks, we can assign them. Each task also we can estimate when I open one task. So I'll start now from the bottom. The smallest work item or smallest part is the task itself. So the task will have a description. We'll have part of planning, how much hour efforts I need for that, how much is remaining, how much is completed. And yeah, here is on the right part, we can see the integration to these all other services that I have. In this case, it's a deployment pipeline. When this task is already closed, so it means I already finished it. Yeah, when did I create it with this task? I can also, in this case, you can see it's linked to the Git, to my Git commit, and it's being deployed. But that will also come in a second. Yeah, so this is all my backlog. So these are all the tasks currently that I defined that needs to be done in my project. They're assigned to the people, as I said, and they have different states. As you already know, in Agile and Scrum, each project is run in the cycles or iterations. They call it sometimes sprints. So this is where we define such sprints. Usually it's some good number is to keep 2-week sprints. So in 2 weeks, we will always have some delivery or some product update. In this case, this sprint, we are in this project, it's a second sprint or iteration number 2, started today till December. I assigned few user stories with the task that needs to be done in this sprint. What is important also is to set the capacity. In this case, I have 2 members. We all have capacity. I can set the capacity per day. We all have capacity 8 hours per day, no days off in this case. And you can see that once you switch in the backlog, you can see then also work details. You can see who has how much capacity left in these 10 days of working, how much of time is assigned. So here is just 6 hours assigned of maximum 80. In this case, 0 of 80. So this Indraniel in this case is not assigned. It's not fully. Yeah. These resources are not utilized properly. So yeah, we have that as a sprint, and of course I can also try to let's say where is it? Just a second. We can as well in the planning we can just a second. Do we have that? Yeah, it's in the backlog. Sorry. And of course, we can also see how much we can achieve in one sprint. So we can kind of also estimate our work. But this is something maybe to when we switch to the stories. Yeah, we can also define what is our velocity. So each story I can give some kind of a points, and in these points, let's say for this for the story, for each story, I can assign a story point that represents some kind of a value for me or an output. And for that, yeah, we can see here that based on our velocity, and in this case, I defined that my team is capable of achieving 5 points per sprint. That we'll probably just manage in this sprint these first 4 user stories, and the 5th one we'll have to move to iteration 3. So we can do such a forecasting a little bit based on, but for that we need to run a few sprints to see how much our team can deliver or what is the velocity of our team in average, and then use that here as a parameter to calculate or to forecast how much of my user stories in the backlog I actually can finish in that. In that sprint or in the current sprint or in the next sprint or where I will be in a few sprints or in a few months. Yeah, this is maybe all too detailed, but I'm just trying to explain or to show you how how to track tasks and bugs as well. I mean, we are here at the sprint about bugs tracking. Just a second here. Oh, bugs are going to come later. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. Yeah, we have, I would say, I'll just switch to the demo pack. So yeah, as we said, we had we created a dummy project. We set up a team, and do we have actually questions on this one? Because yeah, we don't have to do it. I would rather have it as a meetup or discussion through immediately if you have some questions, or put your hands up. Because yeah, not that I'm just speaking. Maybe we have also the guys on the teams if there's any questions here or so far. Okay, no questions. Good. So that will be the project. Just a short overview of these project management features. They are, yeah, you just need to work with them. They're for now, maybe if you never did it or never used Jira or other project management, it looks maybe too much now, but generally these all templates, Agile, Scrum, they're very similar, and once you understand, yeah, how to deal with them, or what works best for you. Do I want my epics features, or I don't need this epics? I can just start defining my features or defining user stories and tasks based on the size of the project. But generally, yeah, you can define all that, and you can use and customize also all sorts of things. So we have now short, yeah, Git. As I heard, you already use Git, so I just had it here to sentence. Many people use version control. Yeah, it's a good place, or the best place to store your code and protect it and manage it than any other storage, better than your hard drive certainly. And even if you are alone in the project and you are working by yourself, I would again create myself a Git repository and put my code there, where I can have a history, when I can track my changes, I can merge and create different versions and forks and branches out of my code. So, and the question why Git? Because we saw that DevOps can also use Team Foundation version control. Is a simple fact that compared to the Team Foundation version control, it's distributed, which means you actually kind of download locally the whole code or the database, the whole repository on your computer. You work on it, you create changes, and until you do the push to the server, to the repository, you don't need to have any connection to your server. So it's kind of, you can work offline, and it's based on that. It's also better for branching and all these pull request features and collaboration. What I'm going to show you, it enables all that together. So that all teamwork and makes it much more efficient, in my opinion, and also much more fun than the previous legacy version controls that I used. So as you already know, the basic workflow is I clone my repository, I download it to my computer, I have a local copy, I work on it, add stuff, change files, delete files, and I can do multiple commits. Commit means I update the local database with the newest changes. I can repeat it how many times I want, and once I want all the changes to be uploaded to the server so that my teammates and other members of my team can get these changes, I need to push that repository. Once it's pushed, it's going to be merged with whatever the state on the remote repository it is, and eventually the same files are being changed by me or somebody else. I'll get the opportunity and this tooling that Git enables us to merge the code and do the merging and reviewing. So yeah, there's a Git. Also short demo, I think you already used, but I will use my project. I already committed some code there, so I will use that as a, actually, yeah, let's open it from the DevOps. So let's assume I just created my project, and yeah, I have my repository. In this case, I have two repositories. One is for a backend project and one is for frontend. It is recommended to have for each component of your solution, like in this case backend and UI or frontend, to have separate repositories so the separate teams can work on it, and you can have also separate separate build pipelines and everything. Everything what comes with it. So I will have the backend. This is what I already have. Some few hours ago I committed some code. So all I need to do is clone that repository. I can also do it over command shell on my Windows, but with DevOps it's even easier. So all I have to say is, okay, I want to clone it. I use Visual Studio, and it's going to open my project in the Visual Studio, or open this repository and ask me where do I want to store my local copy of the repository. So it starts now, and we should get a screen asking, yeah, exactly. So it tells me, okay, you want to clone this repository, remove that, and where do you want to have it? I'll just store it in some temporary folder because I probably have something there. I'll say clone, and off I go. I mean, this, I can already start working and committing the code. Let's just wait till it finishes the cloning process. And then on my internet. So the repository is cloned successfully. We are in a local copy. And in this case, my default branch is developed. So what I have created in my repository here is two branches. I have develop branch and master branch. So the master branch is the main one. Develop is the one used by team on daily basis to develop stuff. And once we finish, let's say, the sprint of iteration of 2 weeks of work, then it will be merged into a master sprint. Potentially these 2 weeks we will debug and test how much we can. And then it will be merged into master. From there, we create the release. From there, we build the release versions of our source application and also deploy it to where it needs to be deployed. So, so yeah, we have here a cloned repository. We have just a second. Yeah. So what else we what I want? So we already use the Git. I don't know if you use it from the Visual Studio or from the Command Explorer, but it's yeah, from Visual Studio it's even easier. So this is the version of code that tells me that I'm right now working on my develop branch. So I can make some changes here, and let's just do it for a purpose of showing here for demo purposes of my commits. Let's say we change something here, and let's see here. Yeah, we're just gonna make a change we can make. Not here.
Maybe I have commit.
Yeah, we're just gonna. I created a few forecasts. Let's run the solution before. So this is just a backend simple controller REST API that. There was some weather forecast, just a template from .NET 7.0 version, and then I just added additional forecast, something that is right now everywhere, and that's the World Cup. So yeah, we just have some World Cup that we say, okay. I don't. Do you know Swagger? Is anyone familiar with Swagger? So okay. REST API or REST services. I see some ads. So Swagger is literally a UI that enables me to see my REST API and to browse it and to experiment and to call and run the endpoints or the calls to my backend service and to see what kind of results I'm going to get. and actually to test it out. So it's a kind of debug tool for that as well. So in this case, I have one forecast who's gonna be top 3 positions in the World Cup, something like that. And yeah, here first place is Croatia, England, Japan. It's just based on the names that are currently still in the VM. So that was the code that was running here. And yeah, I just defined here a few teams that are still in the tournament and just use one line of code, randomize them, and just give me top 3 that are randomized, and then just make it as a forecast of who's going to win in the World Cup. So this is my code. It obviously runs, it works. I just experimented. I just called one of these experiment methods and say execute. I'll execute it again. Now it's Portugal, Brazil, Japan again. Japan third 2 times in a row. So yeah, I will change something here. Let's say we will yeah, remove some team. I don't know if somebody is already out from the VM, but we're just gonna add additional team here. Team of Frankfurt. So that's like this. So yeah, on Git we can also post now, or we can push this. The good thing is with this integration between when we have a Git repository as a version control and the project management to the DevOps, is that we can actually on each commit to the Git we can match or map the work item. So if I have, let's say, sorry for switching too much. So if I have, let's say, a task, I'm in a current sprint, I have my tasks here, and one of them is still active. Here it says create a pull request and approve it, something like that. So task ID, in this case, when I open it, I have a task ID 16. I can create a pull request, I can create a commit saying this is number 16. I was working on number 16, and it resolves me immediately create pull request of the task that I was working on. And sorry, I should click on it. Yeah, it's added immediately into related work items, and then added another team on the tournament, and I can just push it as well. So I can commit the change. By committing, of course, it's only on my local repository, and we can see here that I have one pending outgoing commit, and I can push it to the remote branch, in this case to Azure DevOps Git repository. So behind, okay, pull and then push. Okay. So now once I pushed it, I should be able to see my, first of all, we see it here immediately created just now. So it already tracked under my work item, or in this case, under my task number 16, that I created a push to the Git repository, and it told me what is the commit ID, and I can also click and actually go to that commit and see the change in the file that I created. So you can see here, it's a little bit, screen is too small, but you can see here that I added, this is the old line, this is the new line. Instead of your screen, okay, thanks for the input. Let me see how to, so. For some reason, we lost the screen sharing, but now it's back. So sorry about that. So yeah, we can see here that which commit I created just now, who created the commit, what's the commit ID, on which branch, etc. So that is kind of one of these use cases where having a project management together with the version control gives you Good. So yeah, that. Anything else? One or two. I will just start again. Demo. Any questions to Git or this stuff that I was showing now? Anyone has some? Or something was not clear enough? Okay. That's good, I guess. So the next part is so this collaboration, what I mean. So yeah, I mean, we saw that we can not just set up a project, define the tasks and user stories and features belonging to that project, use a version control to upload the code, what I just did, clone the repository locally, change, upload files, map them or link them to the specific items, work items or tasks or bugs, and create that kind of links or transparency of each work. We can also use other things, or more importantly, how can we do the better collaboration in such a project? If the project is small, of course, it's much easier to collaborate with 2 or 3 people, but if we're talking about bigger projects, even with 2 people, small communication between 2 developers, it's not very efficient to use the Teams and call someone every 5 or 10 minutes just because one short question. So it's easier if it's something not really high priority. It's easier to ask somewhere, write somewhere a question, and then this user will be, or that team member will be notified, and once he has time or it fits him the best, he would answer this question. So all these things considered, I was thinking, just from my experience, how can I represent the collaboration, how I see it in DevOps, that is very, very not just positive, but it's very influence and the game changer in the whole software development process, in my opinion. It's first thing is writing documentation. It is always something that none of us likes to do, and yeah, that's why making that easier, it's always a positive or big positive impact on a project. So for that purposes, I would always tend to use wiki pages. There's a wiki engine in DevOps built in, so you can use it with the markup language to document and write stuff and document everything about the project. Is it some general information about the project, or is it some specific use cases or some business logic that needs to be defined? Everything that needs to be documented, I would prefer to use always wiki pages. It's easy to collaborate. It's also version tracking, so I can see the differences every time, or all the changes in the wiki itself. It's searchable. It's much easier to find something. So the first go-to place would be for documentation with wiki pages. We'll see in a minute where they are and how they look like. The other thing is, once we create these user stories or features, and we have this area where we, let's say, where we can write down the description and what is needed to be implemented for a developer, we can as well attach different types of documents there. There's the attachment button. I can say attach PDF, PowerPoint presentation, Word. So it is also kind of a documentation. If it's user story or specific feature related, I can attach that to my user story. I'll just show that in a bit. So let's say I want to define more how a user story of creation, .NET project. This is my description. I can type how much I want. It's really a rich text editor, so I can also paste pictures here, write text, but I can also use the attachment feature and attach any type or any kind of document here. Let's use some PDF here, I don't know, whatever, and I can just attach it here. So it is also kind of good. It is not a documentation. I would use this only for this specific user story in this context, but for a developer, it's always good to have some additional documentation, especially if the description itself is not enough. So yeah, that would be as well something for writing documentation generally. The second thing about that is the work-related stuff. I should have stayed actually on the screen. There is this discussion area as well. So we can, as well as attaching the additional documentation as attachment or documents, we can use a discussion area below the description here, where here is something. And I can ask someone of my team members, especially what I need. It's also a rich text editor, so I can also use smileys or pictures, posts, etc. And once I save it, he'll get a notification or email that there was some question regarding work item 6 with name creation of initial .NET project. And when he finds time and finds appropriate, he can go in and write discussion. First of all, I would have to call him, I'd have to disturb him. Second of all, we have transparent all the discussion, and later in 2 months or 1 month, we can go back and see how we end up doing what we did, or how was that decided, or what is the status. So, you already answered. Thanks, I'll have a look. Probably he's somewhere watching us right now on Teams. So that's the discussion part. I really use it a lot. It is very transparent, and each item from Epic all the way down to this work item type. Is it a task or bug has discussion field, so it tells you how important that is. Also for Microsoft to putting these kind of, there are some fields that are in each item, like remaining time or assigned to priority, but discussion is also one of them. Description, of course, it's each item has field for description, but discussions as well. For code reviews, that is the last part. So we have whole documentation, project related or specific use case related. We have use case related, we can use discussions. And for code reviews, we can use, we have a possibility by using pull requests to discuss, to review, and also follow up the parts or the changes or improvements of the code. I think I created as well today one example because I knew it would be hard because I'm one user and we have a team. I didn't know Indranil will be watching us, so we would maybe do it just like now live, but we have such use case of one case actually of pull requests where I created today. So basically, to pull requests to addition to the Git story that we had previously. So once I clone the repository, make my changes and push it, that is all on one branch. So in this case, I was on develop branch. In order to use the pull requests, we cannot work in the same branch. We should be working in so-called feature branches. That means once I, as a developer, get a task, in this case, I'll go to my sprints and I got assigned task called implement the simple REST endpoint. I will not just simply clone the develop or whatever is default repository and start making my changes on the repository. I would first click here and say create a new branch. So I would create a branch, a specific branch out of default branch, in this case, a develop branch. And I have some kind of name I need to give him. I like to use a prefix like feature branch, and then I would call it something like develop, so I know it's based from develop branch, and then it's feature branch, and my feature that I want to create is number 7. I don't know if we have already 7, we have 7, but it will be something like 7, and I can add additional names just to avoid any misunderstanding. I can say implementation REST or something. So in this case, I created a fork or a branch of develop branch where I can in peace work locally without pushing constantly changes to develop branch, especially what we're going to see later if we have some specific actions or pipelines behind the branch. So usually behind the dev branch, you would have automatic or continuous integration or automatic build. So once I push the changes, it might trigger some build action on the server building my code. So as a developer, if I want to commit my change and push it, I don't want to be triggering that develop every time. So there are many positive aspects of why should I use a feature branch, especially also if I will be working a few days on it, or the team is bigger, there'll be 3 or 4 people working on the same feature branch, then even more. It makes sense to create separate feature branch based off develop branch, and once we are finished, we create so-called pull request. Pull request will be then reviewed, whoever is a project or senior developer, lead developer, architect, whoever has the role in the project to review the code, and he's the one that's going to review it and approve or comment on it. So I'll create here this branch, and once it's created, yeah, it's here, I can clone now this one and start working on it. What I want to show is today I already created such feature branch, I think even number 7, and yeah, it was this one, REST endpoints. Yeah, it was actually exactly the number 7 feature branch, and I created so-called pull request. How can I show it now? Now it's kind of too much to show now when I see about it. But yeah, initially I created a pull request out of that feature branch. On the pull request, I assigned, in this case, that that reviewers will be Indragan, my colleague. He needs to review it and then approve my pull request. When he approves it, means my feature branch will be merged to the dev, my changes. What he did, of course, he saw it. He was saying, okay, there were in description, I linked 2 work items to that pull request. Work items number 12 and number 13. It was closed. He could see, read what is it about to understand what he needs to review. They were also here listed to which tasks my pull request or my update is regarding. He can go to the files and see actual file changes that happened between the dev, so the one that I pushed in pull request and the dev branch, and also review them. And if something is strange, he saw here. In this case, I think he said, please correct the typo. I wrote here random. I think it was E, and I can also write to say corrected. So once we can also chat here. We can reply. I can give a feedback, or that's a follow-up. If I'm still working on it, I cannot fix it. It's closed. So we can actually chat and collaborate on each line of code, which is exactly that last piece that I wanted to show you, based on a pull request. And once it's all clear and I resolved it, and I updated the code, you can also see it here on the history. He wrote the correction here, or pointed me to correct it. I resolved it. I made another update of my pull request, and then he approved it, and then it all joined to dev. And then the dev will probably continue with all pipelines and workflow what's behind it. So that is the pull request feature that is actually only available if you have a Git repository in DevOps. So if you have this legacy team foundation version control, I think it's not going to work. I found it very clean to work with, in sense of really every user story should have its own feature branch, the teams, you create pull requests. It's also easy afterwards to track the changes and to see which features have been implemented, which features are being reviewed, etc., etc. Any question on these pull requests or discussions or anything. Also from the team side. Let me see how much people are still there. Yeah, there's some people there. Okay.
Is there anything in which this particular DevOps environment is bad? Like it does not meet the expectations compared to the other softwares. Every software has some things in which they are not that great. Maybe merging or maybe identifying something like disadvantage.
Disadvantages. Okay.
Please just repeat the question.
So your question, how I understood was, is there any disadvantages?
Yeah, compared to the other softwares in the market. Of course,
Okay,
it is great, nice, everything works good, but like we should also know about what is not good.
What is not, okay, so is there any disadvantages on DevOps, short? Well, I mean, to be honest, it's a good question, actually. It's a good question. I personally would use it always. Really, I'm maybe, because I'm so enthusiastic about it, maybe I will over-engineer every project and use it anyway. I don't see it as a bad thing, especially if I fit in that free range, up to 5 users, up to 1,800 minutes. Yes, maybe that would be one of the negative things, that it's not all completely free, which I also understand. Maybe if these team sizes and this build time would be bigger, or you will get more minutes for build agent, then it will definitely be even more. Just a second. Okay. So we're looking for power. So, yeah, I think that besides that, if we are talking about Git generally, I mean, there's certain components. Git, it's not just the TFS.
Put this one.
No, it's not that. I don't. It's wrong. It doesn't.
Okay. How much do you have?
4%.
4%. We'll keep it quick, then we can change laptop.
Yeah. One thing we'll have to do.
Someone else could offer you a charge. There are plenty of Windows computer.
Yeah, we'll have to
This
do
subject.
Okay, we have a small technical problem now. Apparently, the charger is not the right one for my laptop. No.
So can you hear us? So I mean, what do you need? So that's it, action. We can just complete it.
Yeah. Finish it. Fast.
What are you looking for now?
I was just,
You have no presentation.
I wanted to open.
What? There is no presentation.
It's not okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just. So. Yeah. We have small issues now for completion, but we were anyway short. Almost at the end, so I would say we switch for the question and answer. If there is
Any questions?
yeah. I will definitely
So actually what we did till now, so independent of audience is remotely connected. Right now we have like 30+ people there. We're learning here as a repository GitHub. Yeah? So we have the repository for everybody who is not in university here. We have private GitHub repository, which we use for all this stuff. What we in this course didn't do, we didn't do this Visual Studio that's called Azure Boards, what Armin showed, DevOps. There was many names for this. And actually, that's what he showed now. It's a really interesting way how to manage the software projects. So we have no project in the company which is not managed with this thing. So what we don't do right now in most of our big projects, we don't use GitHub as we use it in the university. Probably this will change over time. We don't do that because we use Git repository inside here, as you showed, but we don't use this. We use here in DevOps this Kanban boards to maintain the projects, where you can really do complex project management. But for very complex project management, this is not the way to go. There are some other tools like maybe Jira, maybe some other MS project, or what I don't know what the people ever use to land on Mars and Moon. Yeah, different kind of tools. Yeah, but this is good because you can start with this envisioning. I think it was our first lesson where we have been talking about different models for software engineering. Agile, the Scrum, this was most important one. The CMMI, we didn't work with that, but we talked a little bit about this. And for this requirements management, but I'm sure right now you have this user stories, and user story has a backlog items. You remember about backlog items and so on, and everything, all this about the sprints and iterations and so on, which we have. Our sprint here in the university is 2 weeks long, and that's what we do, how we do. And this tool is really cool. And at the end, you have a good connection to the code. So at the end, when you commit something and you talk with somebody, it's a chat, it's a time feed, like WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever, you are discussing about features. At the end, when you commit something, you can associate completion of your bug or task with some task item somewhere. For example, I have a task to fix something, and then I'm doing code, and I change some line of code, and I fix my bug, and when I commit that, I can associate that in Visual Studio with some task, which is in these online boards, which is really cool. So that means this is the direct connection between your code and that whoever is maintaining and manage the project. So this is some totally different discipline. So we have people here in engineering who are not architects, who are not developers, but who do this project maintenance by using these kind of tools. So this is software engineering. It's not everything about coding. Yeah, there is a lot of there, like requirements management and something like this. He just showed introduction to that, but there is a lot of more. It's an interesting thing. I don't know if you can show some pipeline somewhere.
Yeah.
This would be good. We have been learning about unit tests. So I haven't lost any code now. To show that maybe Armin will show something. And you remember that these unit tests, the more of them, better. The more code coverage, the better. And the idea is now when you have, let's say, 100 unit tests. So how to execute these unit tests automatically? You commit your code, And we wanted every time you commit to code in the repository that all of unit tests, or maybe some of them, run and check if it's everything okay. And this is cool now. And at the end, now you get some mail if something is not okay. So this is something like you would have your small bots, robots, who works for you more or less for free. So, but this can work if you have unit tests. And this is why unit tests are so important. Maybe you can show, you are sharing the screen
Yeah,
now.
I'm just trying to share the screen. So generally, what was the last piece to show the most complicated one, but just to show you the say where it goes, or what is the whole idea between project management code that is connected, that direct link to the tasks or specific project management items, and then that code that you create as a developer, as a result of that, should be a deployable finished application. And in order to get that code, we need to, of course, compile the code, we need to package it, and that all happens, that whole magic happens in this pipeline. So we have pipelines now that we can define for each of these projects, each of solutions that we have in our code, where we can say, okay, you every time, I mean, we have different approaches here. So I will show you just a few of them, or one of them that I created here. This is a pipeline only for this backend project. There are two ways here to create them. You can create them in so-called YAML language. It's really like, it's a text editor that I just write the commands and it needs to be executed. And there's also UI designer where I can nicely drag and drop and click and create everything. This version for the pipelines I created in the YAML, this yet another markup language. Yeah, and if I click on edit, this is something that I created for my backend project. So in this case, I defined it here a trigger. Trigger means on which branch this pipeline will be triggered. Every time develop gets some change, it will be triggered and executed. I can say on which virtual machine image I want to use it. In this case, I use Windows. You can use Ubuntu. Nowadays with .NET Core, it doesn't matter if it's Linux or Windows. What configuration I want to build. This is just a variable. We can put here different variables. What's important here is these are the steps that I can run. So the first step would be I want to restore my project, so NuGet packages and everything in my project. I want to run build of my project. I didn't here label any specific project. I told him search for everything because I know in this repository there's only one project, so I can tell him search all project files and just build them.
Just one. To be clear for everybody, you remember our .NET command line interface. We had .NET restore, then we had .NET build, .NET pack, .NET run, .NET anything, yeah. And that's here. He has a task 1, 2, 3, maybe more. If you scroll, I don't know, I didn't see. And this task is something what the pipeline will execute step by step. We call this sequential. The first step, please, what was here, restore. That means go to the solution. If you have 100 projects in the solution, go through every one of them and .NET restore. What is restore doing? Restore is downloading required NuGet packages. This is required to be locally on the disk before you go to the next step, which is logical build. So he is building now. I guess building take a little bit of time. If that didn't fail, then there is a next one, and next one is maybe you can take.
Yeah, the next one is publish. Actually, what I want, once I build it, I need to create a deploy package that can be deployed or installed somewhere. That will be done by publish. In this case, yeah, I publish, and even I say in this case zip afterwards. I want to have it as a zip file because I'm not going to be. I will be pushing it as a web package. So long story short, I want to have. I have here different publish as a zip. And at the end, I want to copy that zip, that artifact in the archive, in this case in artifacts. That is something like an archive in DevOps where I can archive my binaries or my artifacts that I produced from my code. So that's all it does. Actually, this is a short one. Going to the .NET Core, saying restore, build, publish, and then copy that publish into directory. I can run it now. I also ran it, I think it was, 30 minutes ago. I think that was when we were showing that push that I created from changes of that team that we added. It triggered automatically a build. I see 32 minutes ago, it executed in 1:20. And as a result, we can go to that build. We can see that every of these jobs that we defined here run successfully. So he installed the .NET CLI, he ran a build. In this case, publish, he copied the artifacts and cleaned the job. So everything is executed properly, and the artifact created here, it says one artifact published. I can click on it and I can see my actual file that is being created. In this case, my zip file with my backend. Only 2 megabytes, I can download it. Let's just see what is inside. Should be simple .NET.
So actually, this file, this image now, you have just simple console application, what we had, many of them. Yeah? And if you run it here in this pipeline and publish, at the end in zip file, you can download all this, whatever we have published. And this publishing can be .NET Publish, it can be this with contain and .NET Framework. You understand all this, that with single executable file. We talk all about this thing. Depends on what you did, you will find it this thing. But automatically, and what he did show now, you can run the pipeline manually. Anytime you can say on this button, run. Or there is a trigger there, which maybe you can show the trigger, which is activated automatically every time you publish the new version.
That is in the YAML. That's we have a trigger in this case. There are two ways of defining trigger. We can have it in this file. That was what I did at the first place. It is here trigger develop. So I'm saying every time develop is changed, the branch develop trigger this pipeline. Or there's also, I can override that. There's also here under menu on the UI, you can even more define triggers. You can say, I don't want to use triggers from that file. I want to have my own, and please include all those changes from this branch, but not from this, and from this path, not from this. So it's really powerful triggering mechanism.
You have some unit tests?
I don't have this unit test, but as I just said, just like we added the steps here, just like we added the steps for .NET Build published, probably somewhere.
Did you look for unit tests?
Yes, somewhere here we can as well just add additional step and saying we want to add here unit test, or actually .NET tests, would that be probably use tests. So we have normal Visual Studio test, that is the old one, but yeah, we can also. So if you click on that, it should just add a snip in. So we can create, okay, we want to use test assembly, which our test project. These are more or less.
Look at this last one, this test filter criteria, which is empty. Yeah? So if you have unit test project, it's just grab your project in all unit tests will execute. But that's, you remember this test category which you like. You can set on test category some name. And by this name, you can say which one is executed. If you have 100 tests, you are working on them and you have 30, they are production ready, 70 not, you say only come to production, for example, and that's it.
So generally what was also left to show is once we have this build pipeline, in this case, this is the build pipeline, it creates, actually this is, yeah. We build an artifact, we have a zip file, we compiled our code, now it's in the storage. Now we need to deploy it somewhere. We need to copy it. Doesn't matter if it's on Azure, as a different stuff in cloud. It supports different deployment or release. That's where the last step comes after the say build pipelines. We will have this continuous delivery or release. So we need to deliver. In this case, we have a release menu. There is two ways. You can also, from the pipeline itself, copy and use the same, let's say, same step that we're going to use in release to publish this code, to upload it somewhere, to deploy it. But you can also use release management from here, which I wanted to show, which I prefer the most, is that here you can also have different releases. Release in this sense is I can have multiple environments. So once I build the code, I want to have it on one testing environment. I want to have it in productive environment. All these stuff are then managed in this release management cycle. And in this case, this is more or less how it looks like. For each of these builds, once they're built, I can now take and define a release based on that build. So in this case, I have one release of my project backend. And that release, in this case, when I open it, it will show me that I successfully have two stages or two environments. One is test, one is production. And this artifact is our pipeline that I just showed that we created the exit file, the binary. And that is what we are using as a manual trigger. And yeah, I can also maybe show you, we have some time here, a few minutes. But yeah, when the pipeline is run, let's say we have, let's run one more release. So I can say I want to create a new release. It's going to show me what is the last version of my build. It says, okay, this is your last build. It looks like it's from today, 5th of December. This is the versioning number that I choose. It's a default one, I think. It's a 7th version. And it showed me that there are two environments that I can select. They're now manually set. I don't want to do anything automatically. So I can say, okay, this is the new version. I want to create now release for this build that I created. And it will show me here, okay, now you have the new release from this date, and it's not deployed to any of your environments right now. So it's not deployed on test, it's not deployed on production. What is test and what is production? That is also something that we can define here in edit. So when we want to change, or this is where we create the release management, we have these, we have to first say where are our artifacts or which binaries that we created we want to deploy. So it's going to show our project. It's going to, right now we only have one pipeline created for the purposes, that will be the backend pipeline. And I can say, okay, I always want to use latest version, and I can add that to my artifact. So this is the first step. I'm selecting which artifacts I want to use. And then the second step is to define these environments or these stages. I can name them, in this case, test and production, I named them. And each of them has one task inside. And that is now repeating the same what we had for builds, where we create tasks. Now I can also create tasks based on this environment. I might measure that it's a little bit complicated now. I'm complicating for you, but it's actually, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. In this case, I just copy the file. I can copy it to the Azure DevOps, but you can also copy it anywhere, or you can deploy it to the Azure web page, or it's you have another mechanism of, once you build your code in .NET, how you can also automatize the deployment part and say, I want it automatically in this environment or here. Copy the file. There are different types of tasks that we can add here. What we want to do with that artifact once it's being built. Do we want to, I mean, we want to archive the file again. We can deploy it to Azure. What is here? We can build a Docker container out of it, or actually build Docker container has happened earlier. We can put it then in some Docker repository in this case. So that will be, let's say, the last step in all the process, from project management, writing the code, building the code, and then deployment tasks under this release management part.
That's good. But don't worry, we are not recording now. After his laptop went to sleep, no more recording. Are you done?
Is there maybe a question? Doesn't have to be regarding the last
You can check questions in audience. There is something. Yeah. So, if you don't have questions, it will be everything for today. See you next week. We will do the same. Machine learning twice. Next time. So, hoping you learn something. I'm sure yes. So see you next week. Bye, everyone.